Yeah, thanks everybody for joining me here today. It's a good opportunity to talk a little more about NuLeaf. So, as I had mentioned in our earlier presentation, my name is Ryan Wright, and I'm the president of Calgary-based company NuLeaf Farms. NuLeaf, we're engineering and manufacturing, delivering turnkey operations of vertical farm facilities. We're doing this work largely because we all share a common problem. We're dependent on a fragile and unsustainable food system. And in Canada, this is perhaps best seen in the $10 billion a year in fresh fruits and vegetables that we're importing. And of that, about 50% will go to waste. The majority of these foods are farmed in fields thousands of kilometers away and are exposed to weather, pests, and disease, and along with the continuing strains of climate change. They also require vast amounts of resources like water, land, and fertilizers. Once harvested, this food is sent through a complex network of supply chains, involving transport trucks, packing centers, distribution houses, before reaching our local grocery store and finally making its way to our plate. So while the current food system really is nothing short of a modern marvel, it's clear that if we need to rethink food production if we want to be able to achieve sustainability. So that's why in 2016, with almost 60 years of experience in delivering various automation solutions for the energy and agriculture industry, my partners and I decided that we would apply our skill sets to improving the quality and sustainability of fresh produce. It was clear early on that the key to being able to produce sustainable fresh produce was that we needed to grow locally to feed locally. So by converting warehouses into highly efficient indoor farms, we combine plant science and automation to grow perishable crops year-round while using a fraction of the resources used in traditional supply chains. Of course, to have a meaningful impact on these the amount of food that's required, we needed to come up with a solution that could be scaled quickly and was suitable for moving deployment across multiple municipalities and meeting regulatory compliance. Now we're nowhere near the first company to be thinking about solving these challenges. With the advancements in LED technology, data systems, and instrumentation, the industry has been receiving billions of dollars of investment in recent years, with a 25% compound annual interest or growth rate during that time. The majority of the investment dollars into these companies are going into large open warehouse designs that they're limited to single environments, and they also cost tens of millions of dollars to create. So with that in mind, NuLeaf needed to develop a competitive advantage to how we were going to approach this challenge. And what we really came up with was the philosophy of growing mass. So the idea of growing mass would dictate our engineering flows in the sense that we were looking to grow more, we need to grow anywhere, we need to grow sustainably, and we need to grow smart. The result of the mass approach was a modular vertical farm platform. We're growing about an acre of fresh herbs and leafy greens within a few thousand square feet, while saving about 98% of the water typically used in these operations. Our farms are built on the premise of a distributed network, where basically we can have farms all over a large geographical area, and we have centralized control. These small indoor farms are easy to be built. They can be used and easily retrofit into warehouse spaces and create multiple growing environments under one roof while reducing the capital and operational costs typically seen in these indoor farms. Harvesting and retailing our crops on the same day, we can provide our grocers and food service customers with better tasting, fresher food, free of any pesticides, and creating a fraction of the food waste. Our indoor farms are improving the profit margins of our customers while providing cost and supply certainty year-round. Targeting the $550 million a year market in greens, our systems grow over 100 different types of plants, cultivars, and we see our business model rolling out through a combination of licensed and owned and operated facilities. So where does that leave us now? Well, in late 2020, NuLeaf actually completed our first commercial demonstration facility located in Calgary. Right now, we're supplying local retailers, restaurants, and consumers with fresh herbs and leafy greens. Our baseline technology has now been established, and we're working on the second phase of development. In our second phase of development, we're looking to basically achieve a net zero, a certifiable net zero farm solution, capable of producing ESG or carbon offset credits alongside with our food production. Our phase 2 expansion will allow us to refine the manufacturing process to be able to prepare ourselves for mass manufacturing and deployment across the country. We're currently seeking investment in strategic partners and creating a secure and sustainable food system. So if this is something that you're interested in, please feel free to ask questions away, and I would be happy to discuss how NuLeaf Farms is growing tomorrow's future today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. That was great.
Thank you.
As we let the questions trickle in, I have a question. Maybe I missed it, but in terms of the ESG and carbon offsets, how are you monitoring that?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there.
How are you monitoring or measuring the ESG and carbon offsets?
So I'll just pull up a slide here, if you don't mind. Can you see this slide?
Yep.
Okay, so the way that it kind of works is when we're putting food through our facility, we're tracking it basically from the point where it's a seed to when it goes and, germinates, goes into our rooms, becomes a product, and all the way to the point where it leaves our door. When we're collecting that data, we're basically putting it on our servers, and every unit of food basically has a unique ID. Along with that unique ID, we have the facility full of automated instrumentation, and we're able to collect the information coming back on the water savings that we're reclaiming from our processes. We're able to compare it versus imported markets. So if we're growing certain types of lettuces that are typically being imported from a place like Arizona, say, we know what kind of production those guys are getting out of those areas, so we can compare that to what's happening in real time out of the production of our facilities. Similar idea with the land saved, and all this information basically gets packaged up as it relates to a single unit of food being produced. So if you think about it, we have a head of lettuce. We know the entire life cycle of that head of lettuce. We also know all of the water savings and environmental benefits when that head of lettuce leaves the door.
Great. And I just wanted to remind everybody who's watching, feel free to pop in any questions for Ryan in the chat or through the Q&A tab under sessions, and we'll be happy to kind of direct that and bring that up. I think someone here wants to join our panel, so maybe they have some questions. Oh, hi Cheryl, did you have a question?
Oh no, I just logged in, so I'm just figuring it out. So.
No worries. Oh, you just muted yourself.
Is it just a presentation, or is it a chat, or?
Yeah, so we just had Ryan from NuLeaf give his presentation for his pitch, and we're open for questions for anybody in the audience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just logged in. Sorry, I was a little late.
Okay, no worries.
Just figuring out how to work the camera today.
I was going through the similar curve.
Okay. Sorry?
I was just saying I went through a similar thing just, about an hour ago. Yeah. I can appreciate the struggle.
Don't you love technology? Yeah, it's crazy. I can barely hear you. I think that's why I'm hitting the...
Ryan, we have a few questions for you. So one in the Q&A. Can you go into more detail on the expansion plans? Is it multiple farms across the country?
So the expansion plans, ultimately, yes, it's the idea is to be able to build a network of these farms across the country, primarily located near distribution centers. And we also see a unique application for these farms being put in remote communities where food security is a bit more of a challenge, or you're flying in and out goods. To do an intermediate step, we just completed the first facility. We're currently doing the engineering for kind of a step in between. That step in between is basically we're kind of fortunate in the sense that our neighbor beside us at our current location, their business, they've left, and the bay is actually perfect for us to be able to expand a couple more units inside of that location. The big benefit here is we can refine the manufacturing process for when we go to full scale. We can increase our production capacity in the short term, and we can test the facility as if it was remote. So even though that these new pods would basically be beside our existing infrastructure, we can simulate them through our automated system as if they were 3,000 kilometers away. We can harden the technology that way without having to put people on planes and trains and automobiles to go in and fix this to make sure that we have a successful and rapid deployment in our scale state.
Great. And another question here in the chat: what crops are most suitable for your system?
So right now we're growing primarily the leafy greens and herbs. We have been doing a fair amount of R&D around strawberries. Our primary design right now is using vertical powers, but we're not married to that design. Ultimately, we see opportunities around some of the work we also did around blueberries and some of the smaller, shrubbier fruiting crops.
Sounds good. And there's actually a testimonial here. Best kale that they've ever tasted is from your farm.
Oh,
so
awesome.
That's
Thank
fantastic you. From Lindsay Smiley here. And she has a follow-up question there. Can you expand on your analytical capacities and remote operations of the unit?
Yeah, so the way we designed this system, we're all originally engineers, automation and AI engineers, primarily out of the process industry. So a lot of those philosophies carried over to this current facility. The way that it works is basically the facility has a network of sensors and devices throughout to measure everything from the environmental conditions, nutrient deliveries, food safety, and general operations and maintenance. That data is streaming live on our network back to our servers, where we essentially have algorithms that go up and down that data set, and it's looking to maximize crop yield and nutrition while minimizing things like water and electricity use. What's kind of special about that is, as we build our network, we can accumulate more and more of this data. We can push and drive optimization and efficiencies, roll new crop recipes out to remote places, and we can provide the remote engineering and plant science support, which is typically the high overhead in these vertical farms from a staff perspective. We can provide that remotely without it having to sit on each individual farm's P&L.
That's really interesting. And there's quite a bit of questions, so hopefully we can get through them in the remaining 3 minutes. Is your core business food production or equipment manufacturing and distribution?
It's essentially the tech development and manufacturing distribution.
Great. And we're just going to lightning round these questions, I guess.
Yeah, I'll try to speed up. Sorry, I didn't realize there was a
no
bit of
worries.
backlog.
We got a good 3 minutes, so 2 questions here currently. Where are the farms manufactured?
Right now in Calgary, so we have a location down in southeast Calgary, but beside essentially the Deerfoot Casino and the Toyota dealership, and we have bays in there that we're working out of right now.
And can you prove less CO2 is used in local conventional farming?
In less conventional farming, well, I mean, I think that's
in local conventional farming.
I think the CO2 initiative for us is a couple-fold. So the next phase of development, our primary objective is the renewable power source. So we're scoping the solar CHP combination into the units. We actually see an opportunity to take a lot of that CO2 out. We inject our rooms with CO2, so it's really of a CHP application. It's a matter of scrubbing that down to a food grade CO2 and consuming it there. And by using the solar, obviously we're greatly reducing the CO2 emissions at that point. And with all the transportation miles saved from not trucking our food in from down south, obviously there's a net savings there as well.
Great. And a question on your business model here. I'm just going to stop your share screen because I think we're getting some feedback here. Is your business model intended to be B2C or B2B?
It's intended to be B2B.
Great. And another question here. Have you done any fundraising yet? Are you planning on any upcoming finances?
We did do, so originally when we did this, we did it on the friends and family kind of round. We actually just made the decision late last week that we are going to proceed with essentially doing our first kind of formal round of fundraising, going forward.
Great. And then I think one last question here. Did you face any labor shortages issues until this point? What is your views on labor supply to vertical farming operations?
So it's tough, right? That's a great question. So for us, I think it was kind of unique, right? So for us, when we were going into this project, we had spent several years in doing the prototyping, R&D, and engineering work. And we had moved into our facility, a couple $1 million worth of equipment rolling in, right, I think about a month before COVID struck. So basically, our entire plan, which was all ready to use a lot of skilled trades to come in, that kind of fell apart on us. So 2020, we built the facility at a little bit of a slower rate because of the labor issue. Now that we're on the other side of this and getting ready to expand, there are labor challenges, and it's mainly due to the cross-disciplinary work required here. We have to be able to deal with everything from HVAC to automated systems to plant science, all within a conversation. That's not necessarily easy to find. Now, with that being said, one of the things that we're putting a lot of focus on is coming out of the energy industry ourselves. We see a large opportunity here in being able to take the skill set from the energy sector in terms of the skilled trades, the engineering, and the project execution, and be able to use that to scale our projects across the country. When you look at that kind of skill set, we feel that people generally have about 80% of the skill set required. And then it's a matter of the training to bridge that gap on the remaining 20%.
Great. And with that, we are out of time for this session, and I would like to direct everybody to head back over to the stage. But thank you so much, Ryan, for your presentation today and this Q&A session. There are a few questions, I think, in the Q&A that you might want to take a look and connect with, and maybe drop in some contact information for everybody who's interested.
I will definitely do that. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.